Okay? So your body responds to all of these different forms of energy and uses them in different ways. Okay? So what primarily makes up the body? Potential energy is basically just a mass. It's a potential. It's just sitting there. At any time, it could change into a different type of energy. Okay? If potential energy sits there and it moves, it turns into kinetic. So potential is a given. But your body is primarily electromagnetic, which is light. At its very basis, when you look at how the body is made up, it's primarily electromagnetic. Then we have chemical or biochemical, which, as you know, that's your neuropeptides and the chemicals in your blood and nutrients that you interact with that are in the earth and on the earth. Then there's kinetic, any movement I make, that's kinetic energy. Okay? So your body is made up of kinetic energy because your heart's beating. Everyone knows your heart runs on electromagnetic energy. Your body regulates it. You have a huge electric center right here. And then 5 is thermal. You are very thermal. All right? One of the interesting facts when it comes to thermal, there was a research scientist from NASA that actually posed the question of how in the world does Michael Phelps burn enough energy to be able to eat 12,000 calories a day? Because through human metabolism, there is no way to explain someone taking in that amount of energy and burning it through the thermal energy in the metabolism. It just is simply impossible. It doesn't work. When he actually got down to the answer, he realized that the thermal exchange with water increased his ability to burn and put energy out of the body. So what was happening is while Michael Phelps was doing practice and swimming 6 hours a day, he was putting immense amount of energy out because it was the exchange with the water in his body cells. And without that water environment, without that thermal exchange, it would have been absolutely impossible for him to eat the amount of food he was eating and actually burn it all. Okay? So we don't think about this type of stuff, but it's always going on. So the body's energy, again, the body's electromagnetic energy, flows in a positive, negative, neutral, and an oscillating, which is like a figure 8, frequency pattern, just like an electromagnetic current or molecule. Okay? So your body operates just like electromagnetic currents in your environment. All right? It has been said that your body's field, electromagnetic field, can be detected as far as 50 yards away or more. So the energy that your heart generates as it pumps inside your chest can be picked up well away from you. We don't have to have things attached to your body to read your body's energy. Has anyone ever heard of MEG before? Diagnostic? Okay? Magnetoencephalography, it's a reading of the electromagnetic field of the body. We actually can read your brain waves now with this little rod 5 feet from your head. We don't have to have things attached to the actual skin on your skull to read your brain waves. Plus, think of that too. If we put stuff on the skin of your skull opposed to putting it directly on your brain, obviously there's waves traveling that far for us to be able to read your brain waves, right? So I just want to make sure that you guys realize that the energy that your body generates it's going out into your environment, okay? So you will either respond to energy in your environment or you will react to it. A response is a positive interaction. A reaction is not. A reaction is something that is when the energy in the environment interacts with your energy or with your body cells, you get damage. Okay? So, what are the different types of energy in the environment? The reactions to the destructive energy may be immediate or it may take years to show up if your body is chronically exposed. Has anyone ever heard the stuff on cell phones recently? Cell phones are an electromagnetic field. If you could see it, they're an electromagnetic field. Has anyone ever thought about the fact that they can hit the green button after they dial a series of numbers and call someone halfway across the country in real time. Do you see a beam shooting anywhere? You know, we have all kinds of extremely advanced energy around us that we use every day, and we don't even think about it. And I'm not one of those people who thinks that a cell phone is necessarily going to grow a tumor on the side of your head. I would recommend not talking on it for 5 hours a day. But we need to realize that these things that we're chronically exposing ourselves to, the energy in our environment that is around us all the time, is going to have an effect on our body. And destructive energy will produce those negative side effects, disease and discourse that you hear talked about on the news when it comes to things like cell phones. So a negative destructive reaction, to energy, would result in cell damage, damage of the DNA inside the cell. So it would create an atypical cell or damage the cell in a way that it looks abnormal. It can cause an interruption of your body's normal processes, or it can cause reactions on your skin. Anyone ever had a reaction to a chemical and had their skin have a reaction? That's an exchange of energy in your body, and that's a reaction instead of a response. It's a negative reaction. This is a little bit of an idea of a visual of a normal cell activity, and an abnormal cell, a cell that is in an environment when it's constantly being bombarded with different types of chemicals or different types of electromagnetic fields, so to speak. Okay? This is the difference of a normal cell and an abnormal cell. Okay? When we talk about how your body reacts with your environment, one of the things that's important to realize is chemicals or frequencies in your environment can disrupt how your cells receive frequencies. Does everyone know here that the hormones that you have in your body are produced from a gland, and then they go to a cell, and your cell picks them up with a receptor? You see those receptors on the outside of the cell there? Your environment can disrupt that signal. If you're putting a chemical in your hair every day that looks the same as an endocrine hormone, it can get in the way of your true endocrine hormones getting to the cell, meeting that cell receptor, and getting the cell to metabolize whatever it needs to. Did anyone realize your shampoo could get in the way of that process? So can the cleaner that you clean your house with. All right? So that's the stuff we want to make sure that we're starting to pay attention to. Burns, frostbite, inflammation, damaged tissues, all of these symptoms of a disease are all examples of destructive reactions that your body is having to your environment, one way or another. Whether it's the food that you're eating, because your food is energy at its basis. If it's lacking certain energy that it needs and it has other things that it shouldn't have in it, it's going to change it. Your body is going to be dealing with things, its cells are going to be dealing with things that it doesn't need to and doesn't want to. Okay? So possible chemical exposure. I need you to pay attention. Everyone who's drifting off right now, take a quick second, breathe in real quick. I know all you came for was the diet, but I'm going to force you to listen to this. You need to pay attention to how you are exposed to chemicals in places you have no idea. All right? And this is one of the things that will actually reinforce your conviction behind food. Because eating an appropriate diet is going to help you, because you're not going to be able to, well, unless you want to crawl in a hole tomorrow and never come out, which the hole was probably in a field sprayed with pesticides. So even crawling in the hole isn't going to help you. You are going to go back into a world that has these exposures. You're going to be aware of them. Nutrition is important because it helps get you strong, and it helps get you into a place where you can deal with challenges to your body's physiology. Your nutrition helps you heal. These are things, we're going to talk about these things. You need to know where the exposures are coming from, and then we'll talk about how to eliminate some of them. Okay? So, possible exposure. Treated flooring. Does everyone realize all flooring is treated? It's fire code. They put flame retardants, they cover everything with it. And I can see part of the logic behind it. They don't want stuff to burn super fast because they don't want people to die in fires. But the only problem is now we're finding that flame retardants are endocrine disruptors. They're hormone disruptors. Everything in your home has some type of coating on it to try to keep it from burning when fire is around. That's not natural. It's important to realize when you interact with these things, when it gets on your skin, it's off-gassing all the time. Okay? Food. Food has all kinds of chemical exposure. We went through that for weeks. Hygienic products. Deodorants, antiperspirants, toothpaste. Does anyone realize that the amount of toothpaste that you use, you know the commercials where they put the big S of toothpaste on there? That big serving of toothpaste, if you actually look at what's recommended and what's supposed to be safe, that big S should last you about 6 months. And you're brushing your teeth with that big S every day, probably twice a day, if you're listening to your dentist. Did anyone realize your toothpaste? Have anyone ever looked at the warnings on a tube of regular toothpaste? Get the child to a doctor immediately, poison center. This is stuff we put in our mouths every day. Safe exposure is tiny, tiny amounts. Yet when we're marketed to, just because it's in a picture, it's not being told to us. They can put the big chunk of toothpaste on the toothbrush, wrap that thing in toothpaste. And we think more is better. Does anyone understand what an antiperspirant is? Let's look at the definition. What does anti mean? Against. We learned that with antibiotic, being against life. Perspirant. Perspiration. How many people think it's natural to stop your armpits from sweating? Kind of a weird subject. Hey, we're in environment. A lot of weird things are going to come up in this conversation. If you are using an antiperspirant deodorant, stop today. Because there's little bits of aluminum and chemicals being put into the glands in your armpits that is challenging your body's health. You do not need to stop sweating. It isn't healthy. I understand deodorizing, okay? I've got organic deodorant on right now that does a wonderful job. I don't smell it, and I don't smell me. Two good things. You should not be using deodorants that smell all day long, and you should not ever be using antiperspirants. Stopping the body from sweating is just like stopping any other function that it was meant to do. Not smart. Okay? We need to look at what our body needs to do, and we need to help it do it, not get in its way. Artificial fragrances. We're going to get a little bit deeper into the fragrances a little bit later, because those of you who have allergy issues, who have inflammatory issues, who have headache issues, we're going to talk about fragrances. Cleaning products. Does anyone realize that when you're cleaning, why do you clean, by the way? You're trying to kill the bugs in your environment, right? We got these things everywhere, all over the... If you could actually see them, you'd freak out. We've got all this stuff going on in our environment, and we use cleaning products to kill them. Microbes. Does anyone think that those are made of cells? Aren't you made of cells? Don't you think that a chemical or a compound that is designed to kill things in your environment also can cause your cells disruption? The answer is yes. it's very important to realize that the attitude in this country that is, first of all, we've become absolute germaphobes, and it is causing a big, big problem. And number two, results at any cost is no longer working. Antibacterials, antibiotics, we thought the more we used, the more bugs we'd kill. Guess what's happened? We have created armies of bugs that we can't kill anymore. So using all these anti-things, not a good idea. And laundry products are another good example of something we use to clean that causes all kinds of issues. Take a quick gander at the chart above. Okay? These are things that most of you use every day, multiples of them you use every day. And in the conventional product, these are on average. Let's just talk about them real quick. Hairspray. The average hairspray has 11 different chemicals in it. Lipstick, this is the Mac Daddy of them all. Lipstick has 33. Did anyone here realize that most lipstick colors and pigments are made out of crushed bugs? Blush, just the blush. I think there's more stuff that goes on under the blush, right? There's layers, right? So just the blush has 16 chemicals in it. The foundation, I believe, which goes on before the blush, I don't know, 24 chemicals. Foundation's got quite a bit. Body lotion. Who walks into those stores in the mall and it just smells like roses and raindrops and rainbows? You are smearing lotions on the largest organ of your body, which is your skin, daily, that have dozens and dozens of petrochemicals in them. How many people think the fragrance came from an actual flower? That's very expensive. Unless your lotion's organic, or the company really, really cares about you, it ain't coming from a flower. It's a synthetic chemical made in a lab to smell like a flower. Nail polish. 31 chemicals. Anyone ever wonder why in those nail salons you got the people who are working there wearing masks, and all the people that are getting their nails done are just sitting there grinning, they're happy as can be because they're being served, and they're the ones without the masks on? Get a clue, people. Fake tan. Now I know we got a bunch of fake tanners in here, so this one really applies. Just kidding. Fake tan, 22 chemicals. It doesn't tan anything. It is a chemical that stains the cells on the top layer of your skin. Perfume. Absolutely the greatest felon out of all of these, perfume and scents. 250 average chemicals. And most of us could never find out what chemicals are in the perfumes and scents that we use. Do you know why? Because industry thinks it's a trade secret. And there are studies that have been done that have pulled random samples of fragrances off the marketplace, tested them, and more than 20 or 25 of the ingredients came up as carcinogenic. These are fragrances that I can guarantee there's a chunk of people in here using because they are popular. Deodorant, average of 15 chemicals. Eyeshadow, 26. Shampoo, 15. The reason that I put a lot of focus on this area is because you can change this stuff now. These are products that you buy all the time that all you need to do is just buy something different. Because there are a lot of good companies out there that are creating these products that do not have chemicals in them. Beauty and cosmetics, soaps and lotions. Has anyone ever heard of antibacterial soap? Any of you realize that a study came out like in 2006 showing that it does not kill any more germs than regular soap? It's been known forever. Has any of the companies stopped marketing it as if it's not the next best thing to slice bread? Here's an interesting fact. The active ingredient that makes it an antibacterial soap is called triclosan. When triclosan combines with chlorine, is there chlorine in water? Yeah. It's in tap water, it's in bottled water. When triclosan, antibacterial soap, combines with chlorine in water, it creates chloroform. It creates a chemical byproduct. Does anyone know what chloroform is? It's a class 2 carcinogenic. At least the Environmental Protection Agency says it is. Says that it is extremely dangerous to your body. How many people, when they go to the grocery store, run in and grab those antibacterial wipes because they think they're doing themselves a favor? I see these mothers bathing their kids, wiping them down with these antibacterial wipes. We need to pay attention. Okay? There is nothing in that store that the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity in your body can't handle. I promise you that. You can't outsmart bugs with chemical ingredients. Can't do it. Here's another interesting one. Sunscreen. We've all been told that the sun is terrible, that if we just lived in a dark world, everything would be better and cancer would go away. Well, why don't we talk about the sunscreen that's been sold to us for decades upon decades? A lot of the chemicals in sunscreens actually pose serious health risks. In fact, sunscreens are little more than nasty cocktails of dangerous chemical agents. Here's a little sample of what is going on in sunscreens. Okay? If you look at the first part of the chart, you've got parabens, which have been classified as endocrine disruptors. You can go down this entire list of this chart, and all of these things are found in the top 10 selling brands of sunscreens. And again, the poor mom is smearing it all over her kid because she thinks she's protecting her child from the sun. And a lot of you do this as well. I am telling you, you are much, much more susceptible to having health problems smearing these chemicals all over your skin than you are from sun rays interacting with your skin, which actually creates vitamin D. Which, has anyone heard anything about vitamin D lately and how important it is to our health? And we are smearing sunscreen all over our bodies and trying to stop the interaction of the sun with our skin. Give me a break, please. We need to begin to pay attention. Go home and look at the label on your sunscreen and find some of these ingredients. And next time, either put a hat and a long-sleeve shirt on or believe that your body was designed and developed to live in a world where there was sun. Okay? It just kind of makes sense. All right. We're in the home stretch here. We're getting there. Let's stand up. We need to make sure I'm not losing you. Let's get some oxygen in. Deep breaths, please. All right, one last breath, and then have a seat. So we've got paints, chemicals, lawn chemicals, fabrics, aerosols are also other chemical exposures that you have in your environment. I would encourage you guys to find other ways to keep your lawns pretty, opposed to spraying herbicides and pesticides on it every year. We made this decision 3 years ago to stop spraying our lawn. It's probably been one of the best decisions we ever made. Our lawn, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look, perfect, but last time I walked in a field, fields aren't perfect either. You don't have to have gorgeous, beautiful, consistent lawns to be proud of your home. And if it, again, results at any cost, green grass at any cost, probably want to think about that twice. Aerosols. One of the things about aerosols, working in the clinic and seeing a lot of people who had allergies and sensitivities, getting rid of the aerosols in your home is one of the first things that you can do to get rid of those allergies and sensitivities. Because aerosols, the chemical that's used to spray out and the compounds that are used in aerosol they're very irritating to the body. Okay?